This room we call our Mediterranean Scrubland. So this has a Mediterranean climate, even though the plants from here are not from the Mediterranean Sea region. Mediterranean climates are climates that have hot and dry summers and cold and wet winters. So in here, what that means for us is we're in the springtime, we're about to go into our summer, which means we'll induce an artificial drought. And we see plants in here that have to be able to survive that summer drought. In the fall, we'll start to water a little bit more, it'll get a little cooler, and then we'll have a smaller dormancy in the winter. In the springtime, we'll water, it'll start to warm up, and we'll see this great flower show. But in the summer, all of these flowers will drop down, and all of these plants have to go dormant and really be able to survive that kind of drought. So what we try to get students and visitors to think about in this room is really to compare where we just were in the rainforest to the way the plants look in here in a Mediterranean climate. Because the big resource difference in the summertime, obviously, is water. These plants don't have as much water in the summer, and we can really just physically see how different they look as a result. We can see plants that are much lighter in color. So for the same reason that we wear light clothes in the summertime, sometimes plants will have lighter leaves to reflect light off of them. Often we see plants in these kinds of regions that are lower to the ground and more spread out, and that helps shade the ground around them and hold water in the ground for longer to kind of make water be available for a longer amount of time. And we even see much smaller leaves specifically. That has to do with trying to maximize photosynthesis, which is happening from the leaf, and minimize the amount of water that's lost during photosynthesis by getting just the right amount of surface area. Whereas in our tropical room, we saw much larger leaves, much darker green, much thicker leaves where water will run off of the leaf instead of plants in the tropics are worried about rotting from too much water, whereas plants in here, they're trying to grasp every little bit of water that they can. So we can just see by looking through the window in a way that you can't do, in the wild, what these two different biomes look like, and if you take away water in the summertime, how different the plants might look. Because it's springtime in here, and again in the fall, this is sort of the best time to visit because this is when we see most of our flowers. A lot of these plants are bulbs in the amaryllis family or the iris family or the lily family. And after they're done flowering and after the summer drought starts, they'll drop their flowers, they'll drop their leaves, and they'll just kind of go underground and wait out the summer drought. So this room is divided in half by our path. On that side of the path, all of these plants are from the southwest coast of South Africa, so the Cape provinces. And on this side of the path, all of these plants are from the southwest coast of Australia. So again, two parts of the world that are very far apart, but that both have this Mediterranean climate. We have lots of unusual, cool plants in here, including these carnivorous plants in some of our bogs on both sides of the path. Carnivorous plants, primarily we have sundews in here, which are carnivorous plants that attract insects. They get stuck to its leaves, and then they have specialized enzymes that break down the insects into nutrients that they can use. We have one example over there of a different path where this plant doesn't have those specialty enzymes, and instead it's evolved this mutualistic relationship with a beetle where the insects will get stuck to the plant, and instead of the plant just breaking the insects down, instead it waits for this beetle to come along and eat the insects, after which the insects have to go to the bathroom, and the plant has specialized enzymes that break down the waste that come out of the beetle. So it's added this extra step, unusually, from all these other carnivorous plants. So this is our diverse deserts room. This is a desert biome, so it's hot and dry all the time, winter, summer. It's just hot, it's dry. We don't have any misters in here, so low humidity all the time. The plants in here are from 3 different deserts in the world. On our north side there, we have plants from northern Brazil. On this side, we have plants from the Horn of Africa, so that's Somalia, parts of Ethiopia, and Eritrea. And then in the center here, we have an island with plants from the island of Socotra, which is an island off of the Horn of Africa in the Indian Ocean. These are 3 different desert environments around the world that all have this kind of hot, dry environment. In here, we try to talk a little bit about adaptations to the desert. So the big difference between our desert room and our Mediterranean room is that though there's a summer drought in there, there's plenty of rain in the winter. In here, there's no rain in the winter. So these plants are always going through this hot, dry period. So this plant is a good example of a desert plant. This is a euphorbia that has a couple of characteristics we see throughout the room. So you can see it has really small leaves. Those are to try to reduce the amount of water lost during photosynthesis. And to make up for that, it's got green stems, which means that the stems themselves are photosynthesizing. The stems are also really thick and fleshy, which means they're storing water inside of them. So those are characteristics we see throughout the desert. So this is a euphorbia, and it's got that characteristic. Right next to it, we have a plant that's actually in the grape family. This has very similar characteristics. So if we look at this one, it doesn't look exactly the same, but it still has these long, thick, green, fleshy segments, and it doesn't have leaves. And then just next to it on the other side, we have a plant that's actually in the milkweed family that also looks very similar. So we've got milkweeds, euphorbias, and grapes that are not closely related to each other, but they're all evolving the same adaptations to survive in the desert. So throughout the room, we see other examples of that. You can see plants that have these really thick, swollen bases. Those are called caudex bases. Those are also storing water. So we see that across families. This is the mulberry family, or the milkweed family, or even the cucumber family. We see some of those examples throughout the room. Other things we always see in here when we think about a cactus, for example, are the spines, right? And that often just has to do with trying to prevent an animal from biting a plant, and when the plant is bitten open, it loses water.
What is this plant back behind us here that's so unusual?
Yeah, so this is actually frankincense, which grows in the Horn of Africa. And if you break it open, it produces this exudate that has a very strong aroma, and that's where the frankincense scent comes from.
This has been absolutely marvelous. Is this place open for tours?
It is, yes. So the side that we're on, this biogeographic side, this is open to the public every day during the week from 9 to 3. And we're also open for guided tours by request. So they can reach out to us directly over email or visit our website to request a tour.